Well, there's a term called hair metal. I don't know what they're referencing. I have no clue what they're talking about. I want to be respected for my art.
We spend our lives on trial. We walk an endless mile. We are the youth that wild. We stand and we won't fall. We're one and one for all. The writing's on the wall. We are the youth that wild. We are the youth that wild. We are the youth.
I mean, you can't fake an attitude. I mean, George Michaels couldn't go out there and be Bad Boy of the Year, you know? Because that's not him. I mean, an attitude is something that comes from inside you.
Skid Row were maybe the last great band of the hair metal era. Long after the scene was oversaturated and sliced and diced for commercial profit, 5 guys from New Jersey brought back some much-needed bite to the genre, bringing in elements of 70s hard rock, a little bits of punk, and good old heavy metal, but with enough of their own energy to make them really exciting, or at least more exciting than some of their contemporaries, as well as a drive to push themselves out of the hair metal pigeonhole, at least for a little while. And if you think this band was just ear-piercing screams and power ballads, then you, my friend, do not know this band. This is the Skid Row Retrospective. Skid Row was formed in 1986 in Toms River, New Jersey, and is mostly the story of 2 guys, the 2 primary songwriters, bassist Rachel Bolan, born James Southworth, and guitarist Dave the Snake Sabo. Rachel was in a band called Godsend with Scotty Hill, and as the band was winding down, Snake's band Still Fortune had already broken up. On a whim, Rachel asked Snake about writing songs together and/or jamming, and the 2 got along like that. They loved a lot of the same music, they had the same attitude, and they had the same drive. Those 2 simply got each other. Snake at first did not want another guitar player, but Scotty was so good that he made a believer out of him.
Still to this day, my favorite solo on the last record was I Remember You. I'm jealous as hell and envious of hell about that, but it's the truth and I can't lie about that.
And thank God, because Scotty and Snake are one of the all-time best guitar duos, in my opinion. If nothing else, the best of their era. And now Dave the Snake Sabo was childhood friends with one John Bon Jovi. Dave even briefly played in Bon Jovi before being replaced by Richie Sambora. And they had a classic rock and roll promise to each other, that in which whoever made it first would help the other also make it. And John kept his end of the bargain. He helped the band record a demo with the primordial lineup of the band, which also included Tico Torres stepping in on drums.
Yeah, because our drummer got arrested the night before that we were supposed to go up to Philly to do the demos. Exactly. So he got arrested, and we're like, oh my God.
Bet you he was so pissed off.
We have studio time, but it was his own fault. He stabbed somebody.
And Matt Fallon, who was also the frontman of Anthrax before they hit it big as well. Damn, that's gotta suck. The guy is Dave Mustaine times 2. And I'll be real, he's not bad. He's not Sebastian, but he can hold his own. He has a similar raspy character to his voice, though it's admittedly far cheesier. There's a song on there called Walk with a Stranger that sounds awesome. Could have easily been on the debut, or at the very least a B-side. Rob Affuso, who previously played with Snake and even auditioned for Bon Jovi himself, was later added to the lineup on the drum throne, and they later got to open up for Bon Jovi on the Slippery When Wet tour before they had a record deal. It's about who you know, what else can I say? But Matt was simply not the guy.
He sang pretty well. He just didn't have that star quality on stage.
Over the course of about a year, they tried and failed to find a new frontman, but John Bon Jovi's parents saw a Canadian singer named Sebastian Bach, born Sebastian Bach, sing at rock photographer Mike Weiss's wedding, and they got him in contact with the band. They exchanged letters, Sebastian got a copy of the demo, and despite him not liking it at first, he sent back his vocals on the songs, and the band knew they had their singer. They flew him from Canada to New Jersey, and according to Sebastian, they got along almost right away.
Rachel Bolan picked me up at Newark Airport. We got along immediately. I thought he was a cool guy, looked cool, played the bass cool, and he wrote cool tunes. I was excited to be in a band with him.
Though Rachel tells a slightly different story.
I wouldn't say we were friends. We were bandmates. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't
You know what I mean? We're two very different people.
But they were a gang. They practiced daily, and soon enough, manager of Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, and others, Doc McGee came around to manage the band. God, I hate that guy. There was even a bit of a bidding war between labels, but Atlantic ended up winning because they offered what no other label could: creative, freedom, and control. They didn't want the next Poison or Bon Jovi. They wanted Skid Row.
It's about the emotion that you put into the music that you're playing, and if you can hear that, and that's, you know, you hear that in all the great bands like Janis Joplin or the Beatles. She was a good band, Janis Joplin.
Janis was a great band.
But you guys gotta admit, like, you're a bad influence.
Usually, I know this band realizes that there's a time and a place for everything, you know what I'm saying? And we look at our schedule and we say, do we have to play the next day?
Do we have time to drink in between?
Yeah, do we have time to drink? And usually it's no.
1, 2, baby, what's the deal? 3, 4, let me show you the door. You're better off dead than I'm making a mess of me. 5, 6, take out last mix. 17, I'm gonna get it to you straight. You're better off dead than I'm making a mess of me.
Critics love us. Yeah, critics really love us. We go really big with rock critics.
Now, the debut Skid Row album is a seminal record for not just hair metal or its era of music, but heavier music in general. It's a melting pot of influences from Kiss, Twisted Sister, Van Halen, Iron Maiden, Motley Crue, you name it. If you're at all familiar with 70s and 80s hard rock and heavy metal, then you've already heard bits and pieces of this record somewhere or another. But it's in the execution. These guys believed it 100%. They weren't hipsters who pretended to listen to the blues in their spare time. They were honest about being scumbags from Jersey who loved a lot of the same bands that their audience did. This made them incredibly relatable compared to your superstars of the 80s like David Lee Roth or Paul Stanley, or even their peers like Bon Jovi. Combined with their rough and tumble image, it all just worked. Sure, there's still some slight makeup, hair product, and good old substance abuse, but compared to shit like Poison, they pretty much were bums on the literal Skid Row. Youth Gone Wild was the first single, and it's such a great introduction to the band. It's cheesy as hell, but it's a rallying cry and an anthem and a half. It's as sleazy and snotty as it is catchy. And so is the opening cut, Big Guns. It's so sleazy and snotty mainly because it's about a bear of tig old biddies. I love the fact that the opening song of their first record is about tits. It just fills me with so much joy and whimsy.
She got the big guns pointed at my heart. Bang, bang, shooting like a firing squad. Big guns, she blew me away and I went down in flames.
Of course, this record is not free from your usual hair metal trappings. They were still marketed like any other band from the Sunset Strip. Big Catchy Rocker is the first single to establish some credibility, then the ballad. And this record has two. The third single was I Remember You, and now, I never used to like it, and I'll be real, I still don't love it. It's just a bit too cheesy, but that's almost the point. It's about lost love. It wouldn't be right if it wasn't cheesy as sin. It's got a really nice chord progression, great guitar licks, memorable lyrics, and that vocal performance. Damn! Rachel and Snake almost viewed the song as a joke, but Sebastian loved it.
And I go, let's do I Remember You. And I go, they don't want it on the record, but I want you to hear it. And Doc was laughing the whole time. I didn't know if he thought it sucked. But at the end of the song, he goes, I go, what? He's like, that's on the record.
But the second single, 18 in Life, is a ballad that I believe showcases this band personality far better. It's darker and was originally about Snake's older brother Rick, who just wasn't the same after coming home from Vietnam. But after a talk with John Bon Jovi, they changed it to not be so insular and to make it more universal.
You guys are so new, you can't write self-indulgent, specific things, because you'll know what it means, and he'll know what it means, but the kids out in Des Moines and the kids out in Seattle have no idea what you're talking about.
Not everyone had an older brother who was traumatized by war, but everyone knew a Ricky. I certainly did. You can do your best to try and help the guy, but some things just can't be helped. And this person doesn't need to be an idiot who accidentally shot their friend, but anyone who, like Rachel said, simply can't get out of their own way. It's hell to watch someone you love and care about disintegrate. Not to mention Scotty's amazing solo and Sebastian's haunting screams by the end. And Baz has talked about reworking the vocal melodies, and for the most part, I don't think that's totally true. Besides this song, most of the changes in vocal melody are very slight. Just listen to the original demos, then the album versions. And funnily enough, it was an even bigger hit than I Remember You. Sometimes it pays to be a little bit edgy.
You can't think of dying when the bottle's your best friend in an hour. 18 in life, you got it. 18 in life, you know. Your crime is time, and it's 18 and a lot to go.
But we can't forget that this is a hard rock band through and through. While to a certain extent they played the game, releasing power ballads and such, they were still themselves through everything. They had total creative freedom, which is why they signed to Atlantic and why they chose producer Michael Wagner.
And I go, what would your approach be? He goes, let the band be the band. And I look at Snake and I kick him under the table.
And Michael's resume speaks for itself, having a hand in many of the best records by Motley Crue, Metallica, Megadeth, Accept, Dokken, Great White, Alice Cooper, Overkill, Testaments, I can go on. He simply understood these guys, and the role of any good producer is to get the band's message across, and he did that and then some, despite some corny shit. The kicking ass on a queer line from Sweet Little Sister isn't exactly great. It dates this record, and it's just sort of cringy. I can't blame Sebastian for omitting this line when he does a song live. And Can't Stand the Heartache was never a song I liked. It's not awful, it just sticks out on this record like a sore thumb. Songs like this share more with power pop bands than heavy metal. And Piece of Me, with its all-time classic bass line from Rachel Bolan, it's got a bit of a Peter Gunn theme, and it helps the song attain a somewhat old-school rock and roll-y feel. It sounds like an Elvis song, Crystal Meth. Here I Am is slightly fillery, but with such cool riffs and a sing-along hook and a sleazy vibe, I'm a fan. Making a Mess is the only song off this record to have a Sebastian Bach co-writing credit, something Baz has lamented, but oh well. Though according to Rachel, he only contributed the word Kalamazoo, and Rachel, as much as I like him, I'll be real, he can be a bit petty, so I don't know what to believe. All I know is that this song rules. It's about an old blues character named T-Bone Billy, obviously based on some real musicians throughout history. And the weird thing about the song, honestly, is the last line.
Make a mess of me and I'll be the best mess you ever made, baby.
Now the story goes, John Bon Jovi heard it and thought that it should be the last mess you ever made. And by this point, Sebastian had already gone home, so Michael Wagner told John to sing the word last. Then Michael spliced that single syllable sung by John Bon Jovi into the song. Then someone from Atlantic came down, or it may have been Doc McGee, I'm not sure, and they said, hey, why'd you change it? It should be best. So Michael told Snake to go into the vocal booth and do his best Sebastian Bach impersonation and scream the word best. And so it remains to this day that is actually Dave the Snake Sabo, not Sebastian. And remember, this was back in the days of recording on tape. Once something is spliced out, you can't get it back. It's gone, daddy, gone. And apparently they just never told Sebastian. I wonder if he even knows now. I don't know why, but that just really tickles me. The final track is a big, explosive finale. Midnight/Tornado. Midnight is the song itself, and Tornado is the riff that closes the record. The plan was to later use that riff in another song, but
We broke up before we got a chance to.
But I think they might have just ripped off Van Halen's Women and Children First with that riff that comes in at the end of the record called Growth, but who knows. And Midnight feels all-encompassing. It feels like the peak of the record, when the stakes are highest. It feels really epic, and it's got some amazing dual leads from Scotty and Snake. The debut Skid Row record is a fantastic, if slightly uneven, introduction to the band. It's not perfect, but it was such a great statement. They weren't the only band from the hair metal era to go back to basics and be more down to earth. Bands like Guns N' Roses, Faster Pussycat, and LA Guns had already beaten them to the punch, and bands like Jakey Lee's Badlands came out not long after. But Skid Row just captured the zeitgeist in a certain way that a lot of other bands just simply couldn't, as good as some of them were. They toured with Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, and Aerosmith, and not only held their own, but sometimes even outshine their headliners. Apparently things even got a bit spiky with Bon Jovi after Skid Row outsold them in t-shirts. But it was also here when Sebastian Bach became a bit of a liability. Sebastian says that once the band got some success, that was when the band started to drift apart.
Things were pretty bad within the band, with all of us actually. It's just like never heard from each other when we were home, and most of us lived 15 minutes from each other's house.
But Rachel says that it was around this era when Bass's ego got really bad.
They put their record out, got immediate success, big success. So I said, hey, let me go talk to my old buddy Sebastian. And I walked up to him and was like a completely different guy. Huge rock star, attitude, loud, over the top.
Someone threw a bottle at him during a gig opening up for Aerosmith, and he threw the same bottle back into the crowd, then leaped into the crowd to kick the ass of whoever threw it. The only problem is when he threw said bottle back in the crowd, he didn't hit the guy who threw it at him, he instead hit a 17-year-old girl. Then when he jumped into the crowd, he hit the same girl as well as another person on the chin. The poor girl was treated for severe cuts and bruises, and this incident cost both Sebastian and Skid Row a lot of money. And while Sebastian paid for the majority of it, he didn't pay for all of it. Everyone in the band had to chip in. Now, say what you want about Rachel and Snake, but imagine going to work and some moron burns the place down, seemingly on purpose, and you have to help pay for it. I doubt you'd be happy. Then Sebastian wore a shirt that said, "AIDS kills fags dead," which, although not as severe for obvious reasons, gave the band a lot of bad publicity. And I'll give Sebastian credit, he seems to be legitimately sorry about all these things, and at least nowadays doesn't try to hide behind any excuses, but these things really impacted the band negatively. Baz was the face of the band, whether they liked it or not, and anything bad he did reflected on all of them. To an extent, his behavior could be excused as him simply walking the walk, like when he got arrested for shit-talking the police or catching John Bon Jovi's ire after dissing him on stage, sure, but some things can't and shouldn't be excused. Even Sebastian thinks so. He will be the first to tell you he went too far sometimes.
Actually, it really hit home because one of my friends is a homosexual in New York.
Did he call you up and explain that? Like,
No, he got me backstage and he was mad. You know? And he had every right to be because a lot of his friends died, and that's not cool making fun of that.
But anyway, also around this time, it was found out that John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora screwed Skid Row out of a lot of money in their publishing. So they weren't exactly pleased. John originally had them sign away their publishing in exchange for them going out on tour with them, which, I'm not gonna lie, is really shady. But hey, it's not music fun, it's music business. And by the early 90s, this new thing called grunge was gaining momentum, so clearly this band's days were numbered. Or were they?
Sitting atop the Billboard Pop Albums charts with the group's new record, Slave to the Grind. According to Billboard, it's the first hard rock album, in fact the first album by a band, to enter the chart at #1, a rare enough feat and one accomplished in the past only by such megastars as Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and Bruce Springsteen.
Growing up on bands like Anvil and Exciter and Hanoi Rocks and Venom and Motorhead and old Van Halen and Motley Crue and Judas Priest, you know, none of those bands went, "I'm in the Archies, gee."
We didn't want to get lumped in with a lot of pop metal bands because I don't consider us pop by any means.
Slave to the Grind should not have happened. A hair metal band not only getting heavier, but then also getting a #1 album in the year of our Lord, 1991, should not be possible. It goes against not only what people think of this era of hard rock and metal, but it also goes against traditional conventions. How many other times does a band who are viewed as, quote, lightweights by some, go considerably heavier and have it all work out somehow? But Slave to the Grind is simply a special record. Introduced a couple weeks after SoundScan, it is one of the very first chart toppers to get there without an asterisk. Granted, it didn't exactly last. After a week, they were gone. The record was almost a response into how they were being perceived. If you'd only heard the ballads, then you probably thought they were just another hair band. But this was a band putting their foot down and letting the world know that they were not Nelson. They were a heavy metal band. They were a wolf in sheep's clothing. The opening track in the first single, Monkey Business, is a roaring cut. It's mid-tempo, but it has a groove like nothing else. You can't help but headbang to it. It takes over all your motor functions. Written by Rachel and Snake, though Sebastian has said that he did contribute to it. He said originally the opening riff was closer to Paradise City by Guns N' Roses before he had a say. Now I don't know whether that's true or not, but everyone in this band deserves their flowers for their performance alone. It's just so crushing.
I wrote it about people who kind of jump on bandwagons. That's basically what it's about, you know, because we find being individual really important. So there's a lot of people who don't. It's like, who's wearing what this week? Let's all wear it.
The The record also showed the band riding outside of themselves and their own personal experiences. Our boys with the lovely hair have not only got thoughts about politics, but capitalism, dare I say.
We're not preachers or anything like that. We're just musicians.
The title track, which, fun fact, is actually the demo.
Michael Wagner brought me to the studio. He goes, okay, this is it, man. Here's the title track. Here's Slave to the Grind, the title track. Here it is. I'm gonna play it for you. And the song ended and he goes, what do you think? I go, that's good, dude. Still not as good as the demo. He goes, I know.
It's about the 9-to-5 monotony that rules over 99.9% of people's lives, and the song is an utter rejection of it. And living on a chain gang takes aim at many different things, and different people, including the police and the prison industrial complex, two-faced politicians, and even televangelists. It's not exactly Dead Kennedys, and it's a tad vague, but was anyone expecting anarcho-punk lyrics? This isn't crass. It's Skid Row. We're lucky we got what we got. But Rachel did pretty good, all things considered, with his words. And the vocal performance, man. It's all screams and nothing but. And when I saw Sebastian play this record last year, live in its entirety, I could tell it was taking a toll on him. And later on, he said that he's probably gonna retire that song live, which honestly, that's fair enough. It's not only his peak, but one of the all-time great metal vocal performances. There were two different versions of this record, the censored version and uncensored. The only real difference is that in the middle of the track list, there's either a song called Beggar's Day or Get the Fuck Out. Can you tell which song was on which version?
The song Get the F*** Out cannot be included in the set unless the words are altered, mother. We wouldn't want to offend anybody, but I just think that it's time to say to these people, get the f*** out, man.
And while I like Get the Fuck Out and its punky energy, it's obscenely stupid, which granted is kind of the point. I'll always prefer Beggar's Day. Granted, I grew up with a version of this record with that on my iPod, so I kind of blame my mother for getting the wrong version. Speaking of punky energy, this Riot Act, which feels like pure Ramones worship with some real heavy metal bravado. Mud Kicker is maybe the best riff on the record. Creepshow is honestly my least favorite, but it's still really fun with some great cowbell. And Quicksand Jesus is technically a ballad, maybe even a power ballad, but it's a far cry from I Remember You or 18 in Life even. Rachel and Snake both grew up Catholic, and this song kind of talks about the Catholic guilt that they both grew up with, but also trying to keep their faith when things go bad. To quote Rachel in 2011, "It's so easy to not be spiritual when things are going really good, and when things start going bad, you start relying on whatever God you pray to get out of it." It's kind of saying that whatever it is you believe in, you should probably put 100% all the time. We started writing it when the war broke out in the Middle East. The lyrics just started pouring out. That's my favorite Skid Row song we ever did. The two other ballads are definitely more actual ballads, at least in my opinion. Wasted Time is about original and around the time newly fired drummer of Guns N' Roses, Steven Adler. There's a story in Sebastian's book when he found Steven injecting dope in his bathroom and then telling him to kick rocks. This is one of few Skid Row songs where Sebastian wrote all the lyrics, and you can tell the pain in the performance. Granted, Baz was no stranger to doing some of the harder stuff, but heroin is no joke, dude. The song itself is incredibly sad, especially with Sebastian's screams of despair, but In a Darkened Room is maybe my favorite of the ballad songs. Hell, it's probably my favorite Skid Row song, period. The song is about child abuse, and it's a subject I can unfortunately relate to. From what I gather, the lyrics were written mostly by Snake, who was sexually abused as a child, and he lets it all out in the words.
Being able to be truthful about something like, oh, well, the guitar player from Skid Row, you know, he was molested when he's 12 years old, because I'm not alone. And unfortunately, I'm not alone.
Right.
But to realize that you're not alone is very, very helpful in getting help.
I feel like I'm reading and listening to something I shouldn't. It feels too personal and private. I don't remember a lot of stuff from my childhood. I sometimes wonder if that's me simply having a bad memory, or if it's my brain acting out of pure self-preservation. And while I've always loved the song, coming back to it to write this video I'll be real, dude. I cried. More than I care to admit. I've grown a big connection to the song. It's kind of insane. Here's to you, Snake, as well as the other writers, Baz, Rachel, and of course, Rob and Scotty with those amazing licks and solos. You guys made me cry. How dare you? Slaves to the Grind is probably my favorite record by this band. Now, I love the debut and there's other good records to come, but damn, this one is just so hard to beat. It's a perfect storm in heavy metal form. Damn, that was cheesy. The tour was huge for them. They not only opened for Guns N' Roses, but they did their own headlining tour with Pantera opening for them, helping launch their career, even if by many accounts Skid Row low-key got overshadowed on their own stage. But if nothing else, I respect the cojones it must have taken this band to play after them night after night. That could not have been easy. The next year, in 1992, they released the B-Sides Ourselves EP, chock full of covers by the likes of Kiss, Rush, and Judas Priest with Rob Halford guesting. Now, I'll be real, none of the covers are anywhere near as good as the originals, but they're all at the very least enjoyable. With the cover of the Ramones' Psychotherapy, not only including Joey Ramone himself in the video.
You know, I didn't know too much about Skid Row, but meeting them, they're really nice, you know, just rock and roll kids without any pretensions.
But it even has Rachel Bolan handling lead vocals. And I dig his voice, man. He's obviously not Sebastian, but he's got a lot of charisma and I love his nasal rasp. I wish they recorded at least a few more songs with him on vocals. He knocks it out of the park. So after selling millions of records, having an album at the top of the charts, several successful opening slots on tours, their very own success headlining, making friends and fans of Kiss, Judas Priest, Motley Crue, David Lee Roth, Metallica, among others. Hell, they're even on SNL with Adam Sandler and Kiefer Sutherland dressed up as Axl Rose and Slash respectively. I mean, that's gotta be the peak of their career right there. So with everything going for them, let's see how they fuck it all up.
That record, I like the record. The process of that record, I can't stand. It was a very difficult record to make. Rachel had said this, and I agree with him because I felt the same way. That record is the sound of a band falling apart.
There was a lot of tensions. I wasn't aware of it as much as the other guys were, I guess.
Ah, Subhuman Race, the ugly stepchild of the Skid Row discography. This is a very infamous love it or hate it record. The hair metal faithful had no time for even darker Skid Row, and your average record buyer in 1995 had even less time for any record with the name Skid Row on it.
This video here contains something that has not been seen on MTV in like 2 years. Our band.
So this album basically had no audience, besides me. I fucking love this record. It used to be my all-time favorite album by this band, but nowadays it's between this or Slave, depending on the day. To me, it's a natural evolution from Slave to the Grind. It's darker, heavier, and just more brutal. It's a pummeling experience to listen to. Sure, there's elements of grunge or alternative, but there's also elements of punk, thrash, and even groove metal. Clearly, their tour with Pantera rubbed off on them. The tensions were at an all-time high within the band. They were pushed to record a new album by Atlantic, even though most of them really didn't want to. And that tension, while I'm sure it actually sucked to be in the recording studio, it seeped its way into the music. It's an angry record, and great tension often leads to great music. Beat Yourself Blind is a churning, grinding song. From Rachel's thick bass intro to the really unorthodox chorus of Sebastian's blood-curdling screams, it feels uneasy, it gives you the shivers, love it.
These are the natives that will walk across your grave and share beside your nation, all for what it's worth. Bend yourself blind, bend yourself blind, bend yourself blind.
Bob Rock was the producer of this record, and since Michael Wagner helmed the first two albums, they did lose some cohesion. Michael was a huge part of their sound. He worked with the band on guitar tones, song structures, you name it. But Bob Rock, according to the band, was not as collaborative.
The process of building with the band and the producer, where with Bob, he tore him down and just play it this way, do this, do that, and we were like, I can't say personally when I walked away from that record I felt good about it. I gotta be honest, I didn't know what Bob wanted. The only thing I have a feeling he wanted was not to be there.
Sebastian said the production choices were more Bob Rock's choices than the band's. But I love the production. Bob Rock usually has a tendency to overproduce albums, but this one, along with Motley Crue's 1994 self-titled, were the only ones I know of where he didn't do that at all. It's a nasty sound. Sometimes the vocals are out of time, sometimes the drums are out of time, but every perceivable flaw in the sound I think works. A Subhuman Race isn't supposed to be polished and pretty. My Enemy starts the record off strong with crushing riffs and a menacing vocal performance. Fire Sign is a strange wah-infused riff with, dare I say it, some atmosphere with despairing licks. Bonehead is a breakneck punker, which is a little hardcore honestly, and with some weird vocals from Sebastian. Eileen is definitely my favorite cut of the album. Again, there's some atmosphere, and on a record known for being dark, this one is especially dark. Totally different to anything this band had ever done. It's not a ballad, but it has a creepy crescendo with a lot of weird guitar effects all throughout. It stops and starts, and as soon as you think you know what's up, it changes direction and goes into something completely different. It's chock full of so many good riffs, and lyrically, it's almost morbid and incredibly eerie. It reminds me of Alice Cooper or something.
It was based upon this woman in my neighborhood growing up who would walk the streets like late at night, and it almost was like she was howling at the moon. She would stand under a street light and she would just stare at the street light, and she walked all sorts of like rickety, and I'm not quite sure what was wrong with her, but there was obviously something going on.
And look, any Skid Row single released in 1995 was almost immediately dead in the water, but if something off this record was going to push this band to a new audience, I think it would be this song. The kids getting into Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, I imagine would dig this one.
Oh, can't you see the songs you sing are scared?
Into Another was a single, but kind of derivative to what was going on at the time. Don't get me wrong, I like it, but it doesn't have much Skid Row in it, even for this album standards. And there's stuff like Iron Will and Medicine Jar by the end, which again, I thoroughly enjoy these songs, but they kind of meld together with other tracks, with not much that makes the songs unique in and of themselves. Breaking Down was the second single, somewhat known for its use in the Christopher Walken film, The Prophecy. It's the only real ballad off the album, but it's not I Remember You or even something like Wasted Time. It's a more standard, loud, quiet structure, but I still love it. I believe it's the only song in the band's canon to be written solely by Snake. Both Rachel and Snake have said that Subhuman Race is the sound of a band falling apart. And I think that this song was kind of Snake writing about it in a weird sort of way. And the more low-key and honestly maudlin vibe of the structure fits the sparse lyrics. It's a somewhat understated way for this band to go out. It's not the final track of the album, Iron Will is, which is also great, but Breaking Down I think puts a good exclamation point on the original run of Skid Row. Christopher Walken was breaking down that movie, and so is the band as we know them. So yeah, that's Subhuman Race. Criminally underrated album. A lot of people like it, but a lot of people hate it too, including the band. Rachel especially.
I didn't like it sonically. I didn't like the way the songs turned out from what they originally were.
Rob has echoed this despite him saying it's probably his best drum performance, and it definitely is. Listen to the title track. He's amazing on it. Sebastian has said he either kinda likes it or hates it, depending how long after the record came out you ask him about it. Like, he'll kind of say some nice things, but then in the same same breath will say it's Skid Row Saint Anger. And now look at these reviews. Does this look like a Saint Anger tier album to you guys? The kindest anyone from this band has been to this album is definitely Snake.
I'm a fan of the record. I love a lot of the songs on the record.
Though Snake is by a wide margin the most pragmatic member of this band, so take that as you will. The album went to 35 in the charts, which isn't bad, but it never went gold anywhere except Japan. They released a live EP entitled Subhuman Beings on Tour, which is fine. The tour didn't do too great. They did decent in markets like Japan, no duh, and other parts of Asia, but the US, it was a different story. They were playing 4,000 capacity venues, which sometimes were about a quarter full. Their last gig with Sebastian and Rob Affuso was Monsters of Rock, Sao Paulo. They were sandwiched between Iron Maiden and Motorhead, and on the bill was also bands like Helloween, King Diamond, and Merciful Fates, and apparently they didn't go over too well. Even though there's some footage of the show out there, and from what I can tell, it seems fine, but obviously I wasn't there. I mean, I think it's saying something if you got a bad reception at a festival that was headlined by Blaze era Maiden. In 1996, Sebastian Bach was fired, and this is where it gets a little tricky to say exactly why he was fired. There's a lot of stuff said about it, but this is what Sebastian says, and honestly, I believe him because he doesn't exactly make himself out to be the good guy. The band were offered to open a show for Kiss in New Jersey on New Year's Eve, and despite Baz booking the show, the rest of the band refused. They just wanted a break from the guy, and Rachel was doing his side project called Prunella Scales. Sebastian was incensed by this and left a, in his own words, nasty voice message to Snake, filled with insults, and I've even heard there's some nasty threats of violence in there. After this, Sebastian was gone daddy gone. It was seemingly a long time coming. This incident was simply the straw that broke the camel's back. Some people say the band said no because they had delusions of grandeur and thought that they were too big to open for Kiss, which I call BS because Skid Row has opened for bands with Sebastian and after Sebastian, so I didn't know where this idea came from. Sebastian went on to a pretty decent solo career in my opinion. The best album he's done post Skid Row is definitely his debut, Angel Down, produced by Roy Z. It's got some guest appearances from Axl Rose, and it's incredibly solid. I love the title track, Stuck Inside, American Metalhead, and the pure early 80s metal worship of You Don't Understand. There was the Greatest Hits compilation, 40 Seasons, which included these awful remixes of Subhuman Race songs to make them sound more in line with the first two records, and they just blow. Just totally removes the balls. But there's also the 1991 demo called Fire in the Hole, which I love. Could have easily been on Slave. And Forever, a song that was almost on their debut, but for whatever reason was passed over. And God, I love this song so much. Pop, metal, perfection. In fact, for a time, I called it my all-time favorite Skid Row song. I don't think that anymore, but I think it's at least top 5 material. You're telling me this couldn't be on the debut record, but Can't Stand the Heartache could? It's a song that evokes feelings of your youth and being with people that you love. Rachel has called the song Scotty's Baby, and you can definitely tell this was a guitar player's composition with so many licks just filled to the brim. Not to mention the incredibly melodic vocal performance from Baz, Rob's thunderous drums. Rachel even has a lot of cool bass runs. It kind of wraps up the Bach era in a nice bow, bringing things kind of full circle.
Together we stand when it's just you and me. So baby, hold on and you'll see. Forever we stand and we'll make it through. 'Cause I know I can't live without you.
After firing Sebastian, Rachel, Snake, and Scotty and Rob asked Jason McCaster of Dangerous Toys to join, but he said no. Then they formed a new band with a guy named Sean McCabe called Ozone Monday. They recorded a little, played some shows, and even opened up for Kiss and Motley Crue. There's only ever a single song from these recording sessions that ever saw the light of day called Only One, and it's an okay enough alternative rock, power pop kind of song. It's certainly not Skid Row, that's for sure. It honestly shares more with bands like Fountains of Wayne, but it's not bad, and they clearly were trying to do something different. But Sean eventually left. So Rachel, Snake, and Scotty decided to get the band back together just without him. Though unfortunately, Rob Fuso also wasn't going to be there because he got into marketing and had little interest in being in the band, though he has expressed interest of a reunion with Sebastian. Johnny Solinger was suggested through mutual friends, and after a successful audition, he was asked to join the band as the new frontman. And they got a new drummer, Phil Varone, formerly of the band Saigon Kick. Let's see how this new lineup fares. I'm sure they weren't controversial at all.
Scotty and Rachel and myself kind of collectively realized we've started Skid Row and there's a legacy to uphold.
This stuff means way too much to us just to let it go and let it just dissolve into nothing.
He brought it up to me and said he had spoke to Rachel about it, and I was like, yeah, man, sounds great, but you know, we got to do things differently this time.
Just got an email. It was really weird. It's like thinking about putting the band back together. I wanted to know if you wanted to audition. You know, Rachel Boland. It was that simple. That short.
Halfway through the first song really was at the point that we knew he was the guy.
Can you take it all when we're standing tall? We don't need a wall built around us. Jump into the flame, one and all the same. We won't feel the pain. Thick is the skin, thick is the skin, yeah!
Man, I can't wait for this video to release, and I can see the analytics, and around this point in the video, I can see the watch time go. I can't whistle, sorry. And here's the thing, as much as I love Sebastian Bach's voice, his era will always define the band, I will say that there is some good Skid Row material made without him. Unfortunately, Thickskin is not a great example. This record is a bizarre amalgamation of catchy hard rock and metal that people know from Skid Row, but also post-grunge, alternative rock, and even pop-punk. I shit you not. And you can't blame Johnny because he only co-writes one song off this album. And speaking of Mr. Solinger, he's not bad. He's not Sebastian, but he doesn't try to be. His voice and range are nowhere near Sebastian's, and it's nowhere near as strong, but he's doing his own thing. Unfortunately, sometimes in his higher register, I do kind of get "we have Sebastian Bach at home" sort of vibes. The best song off this record is the mid-tempo rocker Lamb, and it's partly my favorite for Johnny's performance. The riffs have some Subhuman Race type vibes, but the overall structure reminds me of Slave to the Grind, and Johnny gives it a different sort of flavor.
Shadows of your sins are following you when it sauce you in. It's swallowing you, king of the mountain. That's what I am. Everybody's someone else's sacrificial lamb.
Unfortunately, a lot of this record just kinda sucks. I don't know who wanted to hear Creed Row, but the lead single off this record, Ghost, is certainly that. I do feel kinda sorry for Johnny because if they had chosen Lamb or Thick as the Skin as a single, I think even today, people wouldn't be so harsh towards his era and Skid Row without Sebastian in general. It's simply put, painful and kind of sad. I don't know what's worse, this piss poor wannabe Scott Stapp songwriting or Johnny Solinger giving me fuck me eyes in the video.
I know I waited much too long.
He's giving me fuck me eyes. New Generation isn't awful, but it sounds like Marilyn Manson worship. Cool riffs though. See You Around sounds like The Calling or some other toothless shit that was passing for alternative rock at the time. Man, if Kurt Cobain was alive to see what the genre he helped popularize turn into by this point, he would probably do the deed again. And I Remember You Too is a pop-punk makeover of the original classic, complete with Tom DeLonge type guitar riffs. And yeah, I don't need to tell you, but it simply is not a pimple on the ass of the original. And I'm not even that huge on the original. They traded the original's soft sincerity with Dickies shorts and combat boots and mozzarella sticks. And you're looking at a guy who defends a lot of pop punk. Also, Scotty, nice job massacring one of your most iconic guitar solos of all time. Though sometimes I think the 90s backwash actually kind of works. Keep in mind, I like a lot of alternative rock. Swallow Me has some cool riffs that works with the alternative vibe. One Light is a nice ballad. And Born a Beggar was co-written by Sean McCabe of Ozone Monday. It's really poppy and I quite enjoy the hooks. It's nothing mind-blowing, but if they had to imbibe in backwash, they could have done worse. And if you listen to this record in its entirety, you can definitely tell that they did worse.
Born a beggar, will you ever see me more than Pavlov's hungry dog? See no colors, live another day to feed on everything you are. On everything you are.
They tried to be a band for everyone on Thickskin, as you can tell from the scatterbrained directions they took in all these songs that ape other bands and scenes. And when you try to be a band for everyone, you become a band for no one. It was co-produced by a guy named Steven Hagler, who previously engineered and mixed a lot of classic records from the alternative space, like the Pixies and even Bob Mould's Songbook, and he produced bands like Clutch, Quicksand, and went on to work with Brand New. And now I like a lot of these bands, but this was simply not the guy for Skid Row, to put it very lightly. And it kinda cemented people's low opinions of this band without their former singer, which is a shame because this record has some great songs. They eventually did get better, but nobody cared. Rachel said that people should at least give this era a go. You can't call yourself a fan of a band and then drop off after one member leaves without at least giving it a chance. Look, I may hate Van Hagar, but I gave that shit an honest go. Probably too many, in fact. I would rather like something than dislike it, and it's bizarre that some people are seemingly the opposite. I know damn well being a hater can be fun, but at least hate in good faith. After this record, Phil Varone left the band and the music industry by and large to pursue other mediums, like Playgirl. And then there was a war of words in the media, which included Phil asking Snake to come to his house so they could fight, exposing Snake's awful back knee. He's just like me, for real. Insulting Rachel's height, and saying their recent records should only be used as coasters. Phil, you do know you played on one of those records, right? Also, you're a goddamn hypocrite.
I've done about 10 records in my whole career. This is the best record I've ever played on.
Seriously?
If I left the band tomorrow, I would say that. I mean, it's one of the greatest records I've ever played on. The most proud I am. I cannot wait for this record to come out so people can really see how great it is.
A guy named Timothy Dodora joined and then abruptly quit or was fired. Then Phil came back and then he was replaced by a guy named Dave Garra. After this record, the band thought it'd be good to reconvene with their old producer, Michael Wagner, the man behind their best-selling records by far. So let's see how that pans out for him.
We were on a small label. It was very experimental because we were just like, what do we do? We've been around so long. We were rebuilding the brand and working really hard at it. And we were just like, is anyone going to listen to this? You know, is anyone going to even get to hear it, let alone listen to it? We were just doing everything, you know, like that one song, You Lie, is for all intents and purposes, 3/4 of it is a country song, you know, a bluegrass song. I'm just like, wow, man, we had some balls doing it.
Now this record fucking blows. Definitely their worst. Thickskin was a massive mixed bag, but at least mixed bags occasionally have some gems. Now this is still kind of a mixed bag, but instead of everything ranging in quality, it's just a bag full of shit. It's a bag of shit. This is Skid Row meets butt rock meets bizarre attempts at experimentation. Who wanted Skid Row to do country and rockabilly songs? And besides those insults to good taste, most of the record is made up of material which is maybe slightly heavier than what you can find on a Hinder or Buck Cherry record. I really wish I was kidding. And Rachel Bolan wrote the majority of this album. Out of 11 tracks, 1 is a cover, 3 are co-writes with either Scotty or Snake, and the other 7 are solely compositions by Bolan. And it makes no sense to me. Rachel is a punk guy. Why is he writing slightly more energetic butt rock? I really don't get it. Were they trying to sell out? I think they knew well enough that Skid Row was not going to get on the radio in the year of our Lord 2006. I think it was just Rachel maybe having a bit of a controlling ego, and I say this with love. I really like Rachel. He's a great songwriter, great bass player, he seems like a nice guy, and I love punk guys in metal bands. He's probably my favorite member of the band, but come on, dude! The buck stops here! Rachel said that the main thing he liked about Johnny being in the band was that he was easygoing, knew his place, and didn't really write songs. Whereas someone like Sebastian will let you know his opinion whether you like it or not. That give or take, and dare I say tension, is where a lot of good music happens. You need pressure to make a diamond. And if you're too comfortable, the results are usually tepid at best. Johnny isn't going to say, hey Rachel, this song sucks, you can do better. He's an easy to get along with guy. And that's all fine and good if you have to spend 11 months out of the year with him on a tour bus. But if you're a listener at home, it's not that fun. I'm not saying you have to suffer for your art. All I'm saying is that it has its perks. There's really nothing you're worth getting excited for. Even if you like listening to dumpster fire albums, besides some dog shit like You Lie or When God Can't Wait, this album is just boring and sounds like Nickelback B-sides. At least Saint Anger is more entertaining to me. At least Metal Machine music is more fun to talk about. Hell, even the worst moments from Thickskin gave me more to latch onto. The best song is Strength, a cover by the Welsh rock band The Alarm, but that's mostly thanks to Good Faith from the original. This album is just not worth your time. If you for some reason must listen to a Johnny-era Skid Row record, pick anything before or after this. But Revolutions Per Minute is a total waste. Everything from the songs, the production, I can barely even tell Michael Wagner's back. Can you? This shit album cover that Rachel Bolan designed apparently, and the album title they ripped off from Rise Against? What the fuck do you guys know about Revolutions? In 2010, Dave Grohl left the band, and Rob Hammersmith replaced him on the drum throne, and he's been there ever since, and I like him. I feel he handles Rob's parts better than either Dave or Phil could. Then in 2013, after signing with Megaforce Records, Skid Row decided to do something kind of interesting.
Skid Row's back. I'm not sure whether we've ever been gone, but we've been touring a better part of the last 14 years, give or take. Put out a couple of records in between, but we came up with this idea for United World Rebellion.
You know, this is going to be the third album that I've done with the band, so, you know, I figured since we're doing something special and kind of different, we decided as opposed to releasing a full-length, like 12 to 14 song record, we wanted to do 3 mini albums spread across the course of 12 to 18 months.
I put my heavy foot down to the floor, living on the line and wanting more. I'm one with my machine, bleeding gasoline, kick the tires, light the fires, let's go.
Now we're finally getting somewhere. It took almost 15 years. These two EPs are by a wide margin the best material this band ever recorded with Johnny Solinger. It's just good old-fashioned heavy metal and hard rock. No flirtations with post-grunge or butt rock or anything. The delivery method is odd though. These are originally planned to be a trilogy of EPs, and together they would make the new Skid Row record. There was unfortunately a bit of a snag in that plan. They fired Johnny before they finished said trilogy of EPs, so we'll only have 2 with 5 original tracks and 2 covers each. But with 10 songs in total, clocking in at almost an hour, that's par for the Skid Row core, so it's basically an album anyway. And while I enjoy both EPs, the second one is definitely the heavier one, and I definitely prefer it. The first one kind of loses its legs by the end, with cuts like Get Up, but the second is much more solid all the way throughout. We Are the Damned has been called a new Youth Gone Wild for the 2010s, and I think it fits. But it's much less juvenile rebellion, and more of a kind of nihilistic view of society. And damn, if you guys thought it was bad back in 2014, woof, you guys are not gonna like the next few years, I'll say that much. The lyrics are a bit vague for my liking, but musically, it's firing on all cylinders, great riffs, awesome sing-along hooks, and Johnny is killing it.
We are the strong, we are the weak, we are the burned, we are the freak, we are the wolf, we are the lamb, we are the lost, we are the damned.
The ballads, unfortunately, I feel kind of ruin the pace. They're not bad. In fact, I do kind of like This Is Killing Me, but after hard rockers like Kings of Demolition and Let's Go, it's just a bit light in the loafers. I just wish these EPs were more consistent with just full-bore rockers. And with one ballad each, 20% of this album is made up of ballads, and it's feels a bit much. I know Skid Row and ballads go together like chocolate and peanut butter, but these feel like they were written out of obligation. These EPs were produced by Snake and Rachel themselves, and I feel a good producer would have told them to not bother. But the second EP ends with a great and heavy 1-2 punch of Damnation Army and 0 Day. It feels apocalyptic and ramps up the energy in a huge way, especially thanks to Rob Hammersmith's drums. He's annihilating those skins. The former is a punky tune, which makes you feel kind of uneasy with these huge guitar stings, and 0 Day is more of a groovy mid-tempo cut. It's got some of the heaviest riffs Snake and Scotty have ever played, some cool lyrics written probably by Rachel that paint pictures with words, and Johnny once again is doing great work. This song probably is the best vocal performance I've heard from him. It's maybe not the most impressive thing technically compared to other songs in this band that he's done, but the passion is undeniable, and being the last vocal he ever laid on a Skid Row song, it's a pretty good way for him to go out. So that was United World Rebellion, Chapters 1 and 2. It's by no means perfect, but I think it's worth checking out, especially if you're a Sebastian Bach Luddite, which admittedly, I kind of was for quite a while. And it's a great way to close out the Johnny Solinger era, which was pretty shaky to say the fucking least. But these EPs prove that this band are more than just their previous singer. Though unfortunately, this rejuvenated lineup was not to last, as Johnny Solinger was asked to leave the band in 2015 for reasons that were never really made clear. At one point, Johnny said that he left the band to focus on a solo career, but the band came out and specified that he was fired. Rachel said that he wasn't giving it 100%. His live vocals at the time got a bit worse. They already had to downtune the songs to fit his voice better, but his range got kneecapped by the end. And he just couldn't handle singing songs like I Remember You anymore. I think this is mainly because of his drinking. I mean, he was always known as a drinker.
He got really drunk the first night and fell down the stairs at Snake's house. And the stairs were lined with, gold and platinum records and all this. Took all the records with him, screwed up his ankle. He was limping around for weeks.
And alcohol can severely impact your range, and for a band like Skid Row, you need all the range you can get. These are not easy songs to sing at all. And unfortunately, he also died from liver failure in 2021 at the tragically young age of 55. Rest in peace, buddy. You brought your all to this band. Godspeed. The same day it was announced that Johnny was out, it was announced that TNT's Tony Harnell was taking his place, starting an unfortunate game of musical chairs, the Skid Row frontman position. It was also quite clear that Johnny's successor was announced on the same day as the firing to squash the Sebastian Bach shaped rumor mill, and I thought he was okay. He had the range, but he did not have the grit and rasp to sell the attitude of these songs. And it's unfortunate because he's undeniably a great singer. I like some TNT, and he was even on the Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack. I'm not kidding, he's there. But he just wasn't really a good fit. I think the guys picked him a bit too prematurely because they didn't want to wait too long and they wanted to quell the rumor mill, but the unfortunate truth is that there'll always be a nagging voice to get Sebastian Bach back in the band, so they may as well have waited and got the right guy. Hell, Rachel admitted to not even liking TNT, and Tony seemed to agree with me because he quit the band by announcing it on his Facebook page before he even told the rest of the guys. And he really let the guys have it, but he later kind of retracted his statements. Rachel later called it a bad match, and yeah, to say the least. After this, they got CP Thart of Dragon Force fame, and goddamn, he was the worst singer this band ever had. I'd probably prefer Matt Fallon over him. Again, he's a good singer. I don't care for Dragon Force, despite my love of Guitar Hero, but I thought he was okay in Tank, even though it ain't Tank without Algie Ward, but that's a video for someone else to make. I just really hate the tone of his voice when singing Skid Row songs. His voice in this range makes him sound congested, like he's about to throw up.
Ricky was a young boy. He had a heart of stone. Lived 9 to 5 and worked.
But thankfully, he also wasn't to last. And now it's probably about now where I should mention the Sebastian Bach shaped elephants in the room. And let me say, this band will never reunite with Baz. Now, do I want a reunion? Sure, of course. I saw Sebastian Bach live twice in 1 month last year. One night performing Save the Grind, and a few days later did the debut. Despite not sounding as good as he once did, he's still an amazing frontman, and that voice he has still rules. And that's something even his ex-bandmates will say.
You know what I'll give him is the guy puts it out there, man. He puts it out there. He is 100% rock and roll all the time. So if you go see him, you're going to get a rock show.
I even paid for a meet and greet before the show, and he was cool as hell. He signed my stuff, and his assistants or whatever took this picture, which made me look like a cryptid of some sort. But while he was cool with me, I also gave him money, and I'm not in a band with him. I've been listening to his audiobook for his autobiography for this video, and I could barely finish it. He's obnoxious, loud, erratic, and just plain crazy. And as petty as Rachel or even Scotty can be at times,
just put your differences aside and do it. Well, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be in the room with somebody that I don't like.
Sebastian is no better. He had several points referred to Rachel as the bass player.
I even read an article online where the bass player was quoted as saying, "As long as I have a slice of bread on my table, no, there will never be no Skid Row reunion."
Bro, you've already named him in this book. We know who it is. I mean, by Slave, they were drifting apart. Keep in mind, they had to deal with the guy's antics with the AIDS shirts, the bottle incidents, and all that stuff. So for the Slave tour, they made Sebastian travel in his own bus because they couldn't deal with him. I say this with love. I've met Sebastian. He was kind to me, but from what I can tell, listening to interviews and his insufferable audiobook of his memoir, the guy is a bit of an egotistical maniac. He reminds me of David Lee Roth in many ways. A guy I also love and admire, but also a guy I do not want to share a band with. He's simply too much. Apparently, in between getting Tony Harnell and ZP Thart, a reunion got very close to happening.
It got really close, I don't know how many years ago, like 6 years, 7 years ago, right before they got their singer from Dragon Force. I was under the impression that we were going to get back together.
We approached that
at one point, and obviously it imploded very quickly.
But as the story goes, something happened.
And it was New Year's Eve, and I saw online, here's the new Skid Row singer. And I go, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And I texted them all, fuck you, fuck off. Like I was blown away that they were gonna get like number 7 or number 8.
Either Sebastian was just immediately the same jackass he always was and the guys didn't want to deal with it, or Sebastian saw that they announced a new singer, CP Thart, and got pissed off and told the band, quote, fuck you and fuck off. Now this may sound bad on Skid Row's parts, but something you have to remember is that Tony and Harnell left very suddenly. They probably had more shows booked, so I imagine they wanted to do those shows while they sort out all the reunion stuff, so they brought in ZP to fill in. Sometimes these things have to happen. And keep in mind, ZP played for a while before being announced as a new singer. They made sure people knew that he was not locked in as the guy, at least at first. Now, could the guys in Skid Row have maybe told Sebastian that they were announcing a temporary singer to do these shows beforehand? Sure, but keep in mind that they are under the impression that Sebastian was not the same guy he was decades ago. They shouldn't have to handle him with kid gloves. Some of Sebastian's behavior back in the day could be excused because he was 19. Everyone was an idiot at 19. But at that time, Baz was almost 50. They shouldn't have to walk on eggshells and keep him up to date with every little thing they do, just in case he freaks out. And what made it worse is the band immediately told him that CP was just filling in until the reunion stuff was sorted out. And Sebastian still freaked out and just said, oh, I'm an emotional dude.
They said, oh, this is only temporary. Well, we figure out the reunion stuff, but you know, I'm an emotional dude. That's why I sing for a living.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what those guys wanted to hear. I'm sure that made it all better. Baz, you can't be this oblivious. After something like that, I cannot blame those guys for dropping the reunion stuff immediately. He proved to everyone that he's still the same volatile guy he always was. Some people say, oh, do it for the fans, do it for the cash. Now, here's the thing. These guys really don't owe us fans much. Besides some gratitude for the career, that's it. They don't owe it to you or anybody else to spend months of their life on a bus with a guy they can't stand. A guy that has caused them all this grief with his antics. Need I remind you of the 8 shirt or this? Just because you bought a record or a CD or you bought a shirt or a concert ticket or even just streamed their music, that doesn't mean you can dictate these guys' lives. If you bought a record, you got what you paid for. A record. If you bought a concert ticket, you got to see a show. That's how transactions work. These guys have lives of their own, just like you or me. YouTube gives me a check each month. That doesn't mean they're allowed to dictate what videos I make. Now, you may work a job you hate or can't stand, and you may also have to work with the guys you hate or can't stand. And that sucks. I feel for you. But if someone doesn't have to do that, you shouldn't be pissed off. Just because you suffer, it doesn't mean everybody else has to. And as for the do it for the money arguments, again, let's use the job analogy. Imagine if there was a guy you had to work with, and you couldn't stand this prick. He makes you dread your whole day when you wake up. And you had a choice to get rid of him. Then you have to deal with having a little bit less money. Would you do it? I know I and many others would.
Quality of life, motherfuckers. You want to be happy. You want to be happy doing what you're doing.
As long as you get your needs met, then a little extra cash is not worth sacrificing your peace of mind for. I find it funny how people constantly complain about bands selling out or supposedly selling out, but then when you have bands like Skid Row who refuse to sell out and get back together with Sebastian, and make no mistake, they would be selling out if they got back together, people bitch anyway. Even if you don't agree with their decision, I don't either. I think it's worth respect for how they have stood on business throughout the years despite all the calls for a reunion. Also, I don't even think they'll be doing that much better with Sebastian long term. Now at first, I'm sure it would do very well because of the novelty, but after that first tour, they would go back to many, if not all the same venues they were already playing. I mean, Skid Row, even at their peak, were not an arena draw in every market. Let's look at the Slave to the Grind tour. Their first huge headlining tour on the back of 2 multi-platinum records. If you look at the tour dates, there's a lot of theaters, amphitheaters, and auditoriums. Not to diminish what they did, it's still crazy impressive, but they were never on the level of bands they opened for like Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, or Bon Jovi. So do you really think they're gonna do crazy numbers like that long term with Sebastian back in the band in today's markets? At best, they'll get an opening slot on a Guns N' Roses tour or some decent festival headlining slots, but after that first reunion tour, they're not going to get much else.
Everyone thinks that they're an accountant. They think they're accountant, promoters. Everyone thinks that they know how much is coming in. At Skid Row, we're making really good money. It wasn't much more. There's not millions of dollars out there.
And a lot of people blame Rachel Bowen for Sebastian staying out of the band. Even Sebastian echoes this.
I am open to singing the same songs I sing every night with a different bass player.
And it makes sense. He's by far the most petty of the guys still in Skid Row. He refuses to say the guy's name.
I think Affuso was already there. But But and then Singer was the last thing to go, and then we had the lineup for the first album.
Come on, dude, he's not Bahalzaman. But then again, let's not pretend Sebastian is any better. And I can maybe see back in the day Rachel and Sebastian being the two main guys who butt their heads together. But guys, Rachel does not run the band by himself. The other guys have said the same thing he has. Snake himself has defended Rachel a lot over the years. It's been such a great experience over the last 35 years. All the ups, all the downs, everything. But we just don't want to revisit that particular aspect of our history. Love the songs, I love a lot of the memories. I'm not fond of some of the memories, but just as individuals and as a collective, that's just how we feel. So this is not on Rachel, and this has nothing to do with anyone's ego or anything like that. So that just gotta be clear. Again, for anyone to sit there and make assumptions that this is Rachel Bolan saying no, it's not. It's the three of us. And we've collectively sat there and just said we don't want to do it. We just don't want to do it, and we wish everybody all the best. And Scotty has by far been the most blatant.
It's toxic. There's no specific thing. I mean,
okay,
a lot of specific things. You know, we've always been really tight-lipped about that. And maybe someday we'll just start talking about it.
I don't think you should blame anyone. This isn't that important to get really that mad about. But if you must blame someone, then at least be honest and blame all those guys. It's not just Rachel digging his heels in. Hell, I think Sebastian deserves some blame too for being such a man-child. And Rob's actually pretty innocent here. He's a good boy. Also, Sebastian loves to over-exaggerate how many singers this band has actually had.
I'm fascinated by this shirt right here. This is Skid Row with what number singer? 7, 8, 9? What number is that guy? And before you say, well, they don't have 9, I can fucking name every fucking one of them.
No, Sebastian, the band has had 6. Maybe 7 if you count Lizzie Hale. Which, granted, it's kinda bad. Okay, it's very bad. But at the same time, how many people have you had in your solo band? It's a lot more than 6 or 7. Pot, meat, kettle. Also, only 3 have actually been on records, so if you ask me, that's all that really matters. Sebastian just constantly doing stuff that rubs people the wrong way. He had a bitch fit at someone for wearing a Skid Row shirt from a different era at one of his shows.
Why do you even wear that? It's like ridiculous. Is that the guy from Dragon Force or fucking TNT or whatever the fuck?
Yeah, it's a great way to treat someone who paid money to see you. He gets pissy at anyone who dares mention the name Poison in his presence.
Do you think that Skid Row, Monkey Business, or 8 to Your Life sounds like Poison? When I listen to Unskinny Bop Bop Bop, and then I listen to I Remember You, I've totally failed to see the correlation. I take that as an insult. But this is over. This.
You don't think you share the same fans?
I don't care. I'm on Broadway. I don't want to talk about Poison.
And when I saw him live and even in interviews, he badmouthed people who cancel Australian tour dates due to sickness.
I need to be able to depend on my voice, even if I'm sick or I'm not sleeping. I'm not going to cancel the fucking show because I didn't know that was an option.
Okay, here's the thing. On Skid Row's last tour cycle, they tried to come out to Australia. At first it was rescheduled because of Snake's back issues, and the second time they rescheduled it and then canceled it because Eric Gronwall was sick with flu-like symptoms. Now, Sebastian, when you get older, back injuries are incredibly dangerous and need to be carefully dealt with. I doubt Snake wants to be fentanyling for the rest of his life. And Eric has had so many health issues over the years. He had leukemia, he went through a full bone marrow transplant, so his immune system is basically brand new and incredibly weak. A standard flu that might make you or me feel like ass for a week could very easily kill him. It's all fun and games to say, oh, the show must go on, but at the end of the day, health comes first. And it's so fucking lame to say something like that. Just such utter disrespect. And speaking of disrespect, when Johnny Solinger passed away, he just had to pipe up and say, actually, he replaced John McCabe. I didn't like people using my picture saying Skid Row singer died. Sebastian, all you had to say was nothing. Maybe you could have offered some condolences, and you kinda did, but to make it about you while also lying that Sean McCabe was his predecessor? Sean was never in Skid Row, Baz. Ozone Monday were a completely different band. They never played a Skid Row song. Johnny replaced you. What are you even trying to say? Honestly, despicable and kind of disgusting. And here's another big reason why this band will never reunite. Dave the Snake Sabo has suffered with his mental health for many years, and in recent years he's come out and talked about it, which is incredibly brave and cool of him. He's experienced panic attacks, depression, general anxiety, on top of a lot of other things. And the responsibility of anyone who deals with these things is taking care of themselves and their mental health. Anxiety can take years off your life. You have to manage these things. Otherwise, you'll become a statistic. Things that some people do is have clear structure in their lives, stress, have support systems in place, maybe take medication, therapy, or just have boundaries. And seemingly one of Snake's boundaries is named Sebastian Bach. The guy gave me a headache just listening to him read his book. I can only imagine being in a band with him, let alone all the dumb shit he's done to cause Snake and the rest of the guys untold amounts of stress. So to put it lightly, it would take nothing short of a miracle to get this band back together. I would not hold my breath. But I'd also be there day one to buy a ticket. So fuck me, I guess. Anyway, after ZP was given the boot for just being the worst, the band got in contact with a singer from a band they previously toured with called Heat.
We were just in the dressing room and we heard him singing from back there, and I was like, wow, this dude's got pipes. And then started hearing about his career, about winning Idol in Sweden, and further down the line, it's like, well, he auditioned with 18 in Life.
Your crime is time, and it's 18 in life to go. Yay!
And goddamn, Eric Gronwall is by a wide margin the best singer this band has had since Sebastian Bach. Sorry, guys. But Eric honestly killed it. He had the range and then some, and while his voice wasn't quite as raspy as Bach, it wasn't far behind. And he's not like Todd LaTorre from Queensryche. He's not a clone of Sebastian. He has a lot of his own energy. They really hit the lottery with this guy, what else can I say? And they proved it with their, as of right now, their last studio record, appropriately titled, The Gang's All Here.
We got on a Zoom, we're like, hey, you want to join Skid Row? And here's the big thing, is he hesitated and looked down.
I didn't hesitate.
Yeah, he did. He went.
I was just shocked.
I could feel Snake like sweating through the Zoom. And I'm like, dude's going to say no.
Yeah,
He's going to say no.
I was just testing it.
And he goes, sorry, of course.
I was in Heat for a while, well, 10 years. And then I was heading in a completely different direction in my life. But then I got sick, and my life changed completely. And I knew when I was at the hospital, I told myself, if I get out of here alive, I'm gonna sing for the rest of my life.
So with that type of process versus going back to, recording the first Skid Row record, I mean, like, what was the biggest difference between now and then?
About $200,000.
Now, I am happy to announce that The Gang's All Here is simply a great Skid Row record. Like the United World Rebellion EPs before it, it's simply great hard rock and heavy metal. Eric fits his band like a glove, and you can tell it really rejuvenated the guys. You can hear it in the riffs and lyrics, there's a passion, and I don't want to say it's newly found, but the guys are clearly stoked on the new frontman. Eric said that this record was a mixture between the debut and Slates to the Grind, like the lost album between those two classics, and honestly, yeah, it's got the riffs from Slave, but the more carefree, catchy hooks of the debut. I won't say it sounds like it came from the late 80s or early 90s because it doesn't. It's got a modern production, but that's not a bad thing. It works. This is mostly thanks to their producer, Nick Raskulinix.
We brought him a bunch of songs, and he went old school producer on us. He's like, love that. That sucks. That sucks. Love this part of that song. Bring him a finished idea that you think is a great song, like we were saying, and he's like, doesn't sound like Skid Row. And you're like, dude, we are Skid Row. What are you talking about?
And I feel a little bit bad because I remember trashing this, or at least the first single before it came out, but honestly, this album really has to grow on you. I remember hearing it once or twice and not being too impressed, but in preparation for this retrospective, I listened to this album more and more, and it just ended up sticking to me, you know? The hooks would play in my head while I was out and about doing things. Songs like Nowhere Fast burrowed their way into my brain. From its bizarre but groovy riff, it kind of gives a song a topsy-turvy feel, which fits the lyrics about introspection and spin your wheels, which this band was definitely doing for a number of years. My only only real complaint is that the backing vocals are slightly lacking and a lot of songs stick to mid-tempo speeds. I really wish we had more songs like Slave to the Grind or Riot Act, but we do have songs like Not Dead Yet, which do kind of scratch that itch. A lot of great wordplay in that song, which fits where the band were at the time, as well as Eric.
I was singing it to death, you know? I'm not dead yet, but you sure gave it a good try, you know? And it was like a fuck you to death.
The Gang's All Here I did a total 180 on. I didn't like it at first when I first heard it, but again, it grew on me. It even calls back to songs like Rattlesnake Shake from the first record, with its reference to Tricky Little Vicky. Tear It Down is a classic and fist-bumping affair. When the Lights Come On is really cheesy with some great bluesy riffs and corny hooks, but it's so fun I have a hard time carrying. World on Fire is a scorcher that ends the record on a high note, and October Song. Whoa. It's one of 3 songs co-written by ZP Thart, and it's a 7-minute epic that was originally even longer.
And we shortened it.
Yeah, we did. That's right. Yeah, we did. Through losing something, new life gets born, and that's how I feel about it. And it's positive to me, and embracing that, because that's a lot of change that goes on there. But embracing that, because we're very lucky. We're very, very lucky, so embracing life, you know, and new life.
And this is something totally new for this band. From the pretty arpeggios, the riffs, solos, the bass runs, the crescendo and the drums, and Eric. God damn, that man is going for it. You hear all the pain he had gone through dealing with his leukemia and the treatment for it. If you're dead set against anyone but Bach fronting this band, then do yourself a favor, listen to the song, and realize how wrong you are. So that's The Gang's All Here. It's not a masterpiece, and I wouldn't put it up there with Subhuman Race, Slave to the Grind, or the debut just yet, and doesn't exactly push the band's sound forward, but this is exactly what the band needed. Also, this band isn't exactly great at experimentation, I'll say that much. This is still a fresh shot of adrenaline that proved that this band was not dead yet. Skid Row and Eric were a perfect match. It's a shame that Eric left the band. As I mentioned, Eric had a lot of health issues over the years, and he simply had to do what's right for him.
The main reason why I've decided to leave the band is because it's been very hard and it's proved very challenging to prioritize my health and full recovery being the lead singer of the band. And as I'm sure you all understand, I have way too much respect for my medical history and for my health to push myself to the limit.
And man, this sucked for the band. They finally had a guy who was just a perfect fit for them. A guy whose name doesn't rhyme with Sebastian Bach. But that's life, and life sucks sometimes. They got Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm to fill in for a few shows, and dude, she killed it. And I am not a fan of Hailstorm at all, but dude, she was really awesome. Really raspy voice, powerful, and her stage presence is the closest they've had to Bach since Bach, which is kind of interesting. John Bon Jovi even said that she was perfect for the band, and Rachel had the same idea.
I was sitting with Lizzie before, and I go, you know what I'm going to ask you after this show, right?
But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And for 2 years now, almost, this band has just kind of languished without a singer. To be honest, I feel like they're just kind of wasting their time. Like, come on, dude. You're approaching your 60s. You're not young men anymore. You gotta find somebody. But it seems like they really couldn't. And just this year, they announced that they were partnering with Sweetwater to find the band's next lead singer. Anyone from around the globe is welcome to send in their audition tape over the internet. Even you. And if I had to pick a theoretical perfect Skid Row singer, it would be me. Nah, I'm just kidding, I'm not a singer. But it'd be a younger guy or gal. Someone unknown. Someone like Eric to inject this band with some youthful energy. Someone who hasn't destroyed their voice from decades of touring. Or they could just get Bach. But somehow the former is probably the path of least resistance. I wish the band and anyone sending in audition videos the best of luck. Let's see how this turns out. Also, funny enough, in between scripting this video and filming it, Rachel announced that he's gonna be releasing a solo album, and not gonna lie, I'm really not into it from what I can tell so far. The AI he's been using for the album cover and the video has really been pissing me off. Like, come on dude, this is so not punk rock. Kind of a weird place to end this video on, but I've been wanting to talk about this band again for a while, and I'm not gonna wait any longer. Skid Row were a band who proved that hair metal was more than just looks. They had substance, attitude, and just fun. And that goes for all eras of this band. Well, the Sebastian era, Johnny's later outputs, and the Gang's All Here. But hey, it could be worse. They can't all be winners. It ain't art. It's rock and roll, but that doesn't mean it's not important. This one's for the band and anyone who's ever graced an album or staged with them. Take it easy, party people.
Okay, so here's the situation. Rachel shat in a bag. He's trying to find a place to get rid of it.
If we're parked behind the
Oh, dude, God, I swear I can't.
If we're parked behind the fucking place.
The dilemma. Where to dispose of my excrement? No way.
Go, man. Oh, yeah, it smells like a mad baby.